Hello and welcome to another episode of the TF Cast. Today's date is December 8th, and we've got a special guest for you.
With us today, we have Dagger Chuck, Mankato legend.
Hey, hello everybody. And hey, listen, I'm super sorry about the technical difficulties.
Oh.
If you listen to Dagger Radio every week, it's just like, I'll be talking for like 15 minutes. Oh, it helps if you have the volume up on your microphone, something like that. So,
you brought the
anyways, the best thing about it is we're on the air now. So
We are.
anyways, hey, welcome everybody. I'm super stoked to be on the show. Many setbacks. It's like, oh, gotta fuck these guys over again. Excuse me, I have no filter too, just to let you know.
It's fine. We don't
cut anything.
But super stoked on what you guys are doing, and everybody seems to be stoked on it as well.
Well, let's just introduce a little bit of the what it is that you're doing exactly. Like, give the audience who might be unfamiliar the rundown on Fuzz Talk, Dagger, and any of your other projects.
Well, we've been doing the Minnesota Music Network for about 20 years, pretty close. It's one of those things where hanging out at the bar with Edgar, and Edgar's the late great Edgar Burn. Let's say it together: fuck cancer.
Fuck cancer.
Right. So we're sitting in the bar having a few cocktails, and Tim and Shelly from Shuffle Function are like, "Why don't you have a show, Chucky?" It's like, everybody in music, you need a radio show. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And Edgar's like, yeah, we got one now. So they put us on the air, and we're still here. And then Fuzzy joined the show, and then he started Fuzz Talk Radio. He's like, we need to be on Fuzz Talk Radio. And we've been doing that for probably, 15 years, I guess. So it's pretty awesome. All the great people you get to meet because of it. So
and what's the format of the show? Is it just talk show? Do you do music?
It's all music. Yeah. And then my stupid banter, I guess. Like I said, I have no filter, and we just let shit fly. So I don't know. And then there's so many people that tune in. It's great. All the great people you get to meet through music, skateboarding, art. It's great. This community, you guys, how awesome, if we were into baseball or football or whatever, and you're like, they don't have that camaraderie, it's like, you look on the YouTube, you're at a football game, it's like two guys fighting in the stands, where if you're into music, art, or skateboarding, it's like, yeah, let's go hang out.
I've never seen a musician have an argument ever in my life. It's impossible.
No, I have. No, trust me, there's been... I've been going to the What's Up Lounge since day one. I've seen thousands of shows. Yeah, there's a lot of arrogant musicians. I hate to say that. Sorry, not anyone listening to this or watching this podcast.
A bit of an ego, I think, with it.
Yeah.
Ego and music go hand in hand.
To put your art out there, you do need to just get out there and be like, this is me.
You do. And then I was watching this interview with Jay Mascis from Dinosaur Jr., and the interviewer is like, so what do you think the deal is with music nowadays? Jay's like, well, people sometimes are too ambitious. Hey, what do you mean? And he's like, well, we just want to be on SST Records, and we did that. And then, we did that, so we might as well just keep playing music. And there's like no attitude, no ego, no nothing, and I don't know. So yeah.
It is that kind of like there is a real way to get like scooped up now. Like it could just happen to you. And like, I feel like that kind of like scratch off, like you could hit it big is just like in the back of everyone's mind. And like, for me, I really enjoy playing music, but I think about it like that's just something that I want to do because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that, like here, like I would love, for one of our videos to go like mega viral.
Oh, yeah, like, definitely.
Totally. I feel that like thing, like it could, because we have so many awesome artists that come on.
And here's the deal, like, not to date myself, I'm a fucking dinosaur, but back in the early 90s, like when the grunge thing broke, and that's what it was, like labels were just buying up bands and who's going to be the next big thing? Because, if you listen to a band like Nirvana, like pretty simplistic music, but it just caught on. There was this fashion. It just enveloped all these people, and that's what labels were looking for. And now you got YouTube and TikTok and, people jumping on who's going to be the next. It's not so much the love of music. It's how are we going to make money off it. But I don't know.
It's a little like, it's more, well, I bet there's a little bit of both too. Like I bet that there's projects that are authentically good music that get picked up and
yeah,
because they're seen and wouldn't have otherwise been. But there's also this like, you probably call it like clout chasing thing where it's not about the music. It's about like just being popular and being annoying on the internet, and then the music follows.
Well, I think it's just that way for everything probably,
Yeah.
I mean, our society isn't exactly kind to people who are like not making money. So like if you really love making music, you need to find a way to like, turn that around into something that makes money. Otherwise, you're only going to ever make music when you're exhausted from your other thing,
Yeah, it's difficult. And then especially like the community that, I grew up in the punk rock community and, wow, we got paid $100 for that show, and like that's...
Well, $119.80. What is that, like 2 houses?
Yeah, I just paid off some bands for Edgar Fest.
Yeah.
And I think the highest pay was like $200. And they were stoked on that. And really, that's not much money. Here's a question for you guys, because it's always seemed to be like $5 for the entry for a show. So now I'm working on booking some other shows, and I'm thinking, what's a fair price? I'm thinking $15 at the door is a pretty fair. First of all, we need to look out for the bands.
Mm-hmm.
The venue. I don't want people to, shy away from coming to the show. I want everybody to come in. If you don't have the $15, I want you to come in and see that show. We're always going to find a way to take care of you. But the reality is, I think with most shows nowadays, people are a little bit older. I don't know what's really going on. Is there college age shows? Is that going on?
Certainly. I mean, they're here.
What's hard, I think, is like $15 isn't much. Like people spend that all the time. You spend that at Chipotle on your burrito with the guac and sauce. Or whatever. And so like, but in Mankato, I haven't seen it translate very well to people on the shows.
Yeah, there you go.
We've had this conversation a lot and recently, and basically, like people have asked me why shows cost more than $5, and there is a cultural expectation in Mankato that music is free or cheap, and we did build that. And I think that the way it needs to be changed, and it needs to be changed with some signifier of quality, and it's not saying that there aren't, amazing musicians here or that the shows aren't quality, but, like one of the things that we've thought of as a way that we're going to try and improve some of these things is, bringing in additional like light and sound support if we're going to put our name behind a show.
And all that thing it costs money though. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm looking at is you guys need to be compensated for what you guys are doing and the bands for, coming.
Well, in a lot of cases, what we found out is even as a production company right away, like trying to be profitable, like what you're talking about with $5 shows is it's like difficult to pay a production company. So what you're relying on for that is basically like infrastructure at a bar and not able to pay bands well. Like bands aren't going to want to do any traveling or try very like it's poorly incentivizing like a good time. Like no, the production team's not incentivized to like bring extra stuff and make it cooler. And the band's like I'm hardly going to get food from this.
Yeah.
So like overall, like the pay has to go up for both the productions and the bands, but getting it there without the community being on board, like I don't know how that works either. So I think it comes down to like working with the venues to make them more desirable for people, and then figuring out like how to organize a show such that people are more excited to be there, I guess.
You gotta fight against the status quo too, because at the end of the day, there are people who have made their bread and butter, hardworking musicians who've put together 1 or 2 man shows who play for 3 hours straight for $200. They bring their own sound and they fill the place over and over again. Now you want to put in a rock show with 3 bands, pay each of those bands $200 and have a light show. And you're saying, we're going to bring the same crowd and we want $1,000. Right. Like this is a hard sale, but like those are the hard sales that need to happen in order for there to be a community. And when I hear about this all the time, and I hope we get the opportunity to talk about it, but you know, the 90s, 80s, and early aughts music scene in Mankato here, I think it was so successful because of the way that it was organized. And then also, another thing I'd like to hear your opinion on is I think one of the reasons that it kind of fell off was because it never really adapted to the digital landscape. Like when those shows started getting organized in a new and different way, like it continued to be word of mouth and kind of went that way.
I think a lot of it was, again, I'll date myself a little bit, but I grew up in the town when there were no venues that did original music. It was all cover bands. And then Skanks in Lower North Mankato, they came around, and there's bands like Husker Du played there, Ugly Americans, Urban Gorillas, DOA played there.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, we were just little kids. We'd skateboard outside. We couldn't get in. Jeff Schnobert he got in because he was doing Sick Thoughts fanzine. He was doing a fanzine.
Mm-hmm.
And where was I going with that? That's how it started, and then the What's Up came around, and it had a built-in. It was people were like it was so exciting at the time, and then I think it just kind of got sort of passe. Everyone was whatever, and the What's Up when that started out. If you weren't there by 8:00, you weren't going to get in. It was sold out every night, and just it'd be nice to get back to those crowds again. But then again, it was people that weren't necessarily into the music scene. There it is.
Well, there was an expectation too, and this is another thing that I've talked about over and over again, where you know you can walk up to First Ave any night, and you could know that there was going to be like good music there, and you could just pay for the ticket and not know what's up. And I've heard similar things like about What's Up back in the day. They had someone who was committed to making sure there was good acts there, and people knew on Friday, Thursday, Saturday, you could go to the What's Up and you could expect a good show.
Yeah, it was great. Aaron Swanson, he was the first guy that booked there. Mike Peaton, and then I did a few shows back then, and it was always nice because I always got to be kind of consultant. Like, oh, what do you think about this band? Yeah, bring them, you know, and it's cool. It's like, but then I think what a lot of people miss out on is Marty's, Jason Knudsen, Jeremy Jessen. And those guys, Marty's was beautiful because they brought in like Rancid and NoFX and all these huge Offspring. You know, that was amazing the way they ran this just as young kids, you know what I mean? In their early 20s, a lot of them teenagers still. And it's beautiful. You know what I mean? It's I don't know if we're ever going to get that back again. But, and again, it's a mystery how it all worked together. I think it was kind of the popularity of the music at the time too, you know, and kids wanting to belong to something.
Yeah.
And these kind of outcast kids with the green and blue hair. And at that time it was like, well, you could still play football. You know, when I grew up as a little punk kid, if you had a goofy haircut, you were probably going to get your ass kicked. You know what I mean? There was times where we'd be out skateboarding. You could hang out at a spot for about 10 minutes. And then the rednecks were going to come and chase you down. So, and then slowly, I don't know if we won or lost this battle, but slowly but surely it became acceptable. Because, you know, you go to Walmart now, you see someone with blue hair, do you yell at them and go, punk rock? No, you don't. You know what I mean? That's what happened to us when we were kids. I know, excuse the terminology. It's just what happened. You know, it's not that way anymore, you know? And
one thing I wanted to say is especially when Chad was here before and you brought it up too, like I think how hard it was to make all of those shows work, and like you had to be in the know, you had to know where to get these zines, you had to know how to book these shows. And nowadays I can just like message any venue on Facebook and I have 50 events coming to me, and I almost have too many events and I don't know what to choose from. So I think like, because it was such a, like you had to find these zines and you had to be into it, I think the accessibility is almost making it less like cool to like be at the cool spot at the cool time.
Yeah, I think about that too. It's like, especially in the 80s, is like being a teenager and like, if you weren't into punk rock, what were you doing with your life? You know, I just can't, I can't figure that out because, you know, my high school days, junior high or whatever, it was all about hanging out with friends, starting bands, doing fanzines, booking shows, going around to job sites and borrowing wood to build stages. And what did other kids do at that time? You know, I don't get it. You know, it's like we're always so active doing stuff, and I don't get it. You know, but that's life. You know.
Zach, in hearing you pitch it like that, one of the things that I noticed was that it seems like because I agree that now we use Facebook and events are managed there and production companies organize, we do that. But in a lot of ways, it removed the culture from the experience. Like the culture of it was the zines, was the like, you hear about the show from your friend or you're like asking it. It was like, the seeking, I think, like fostered the culture.
Yeah.
And then probably the gatekeepers had the ability to like coordinate stuff, and then there was excitement built up.
It was reading the back of Maximum Rock and Roll or Flipside magazine, and that's where all these bands they're like, contact us where we want to be on tour. And I think the first big show, or first show I ever booked was SNFU, and that was Jeff Schnobert. He's the godsend of this town. He's the one that started the All Ages shows. I have no doubt that probably in the 60s and stuff, there were probably clubs or whatever that were doing All Ages shows. There was the Gestures. I'm not sure if you guys know who the Gestures are. The Gestures had a song called Run, Run, Run back in the 60s, and it was like a top 10 hit. And I have no doubt they probably had teen clubs back then. But anyways, when our generation comes around, Jeff started booking shows at the YWCA, which is now that what's it called?
The Cray Mansion area?
Yeah, the Cray Mansion there. We'd have shows in the attic up there. But
that's cool.
Yeah, so he started it. Anyways, back to the SNFU story. Chad Sabin gives me SNFU and no one else wanted to play. And there's a number on the back for booking information. Call this. So then I'm like 15, 16 years old. I call it up thinking I'm not going to get an answer. And there was some sort of message you left. And like 2 days later, they called me back. And I'm like, what? You know, it's like, what is this? Because you grow up, you got your Led Zeppelin records, your Rolling Stones records, whatever. And if there's a number on the back, you're going to call that thing and they're not going to call you back. So, you know, you're just getting into it. This is a band that has a record out. So obviously they're up there, right? And they called me back and I was like, so then I got a hold of Jeff. We made it all work out, but you know, that's how it was. Like, it was just, and I'm like, well, what do you guys want for pay? And they're like, well, can you get $500? And I'm like, man, here's the deal. We only have like 15 people that go to our shows. You could name everybody. And Jeff had fanzines. And instead of like last names, it was all first name. It was Chuck, Tim, Bob, Joe. You know what I mean? So that's how small the scene was. But we went out and we flyered everywhere. And we just hyped this. And we got probably about 200 people there. So that was pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's how
What are some like, is there anything you think people aren't doing now or maybe forgot about that really had a big impact in some of your early organizing with music?
I think it's difficult. You really need, because it sounds bad, because you're like just shoving shit in people's face. But it kind of needs to be out there. I do it if I'm running an event. I'm going to be pushing that stuff because I'd feel bad if I'm booking a band. If some band's coming here, I want them to know that I'm at least trying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want people to get sick of my promotion. Oh, they're sick of it, but they know it's happening, right?
Mm-hmm. You see like 5 taco posts in between.
And a lot of talk. Yeah, see, I put a lot of food posts up there too, but yeah, I think just kind of pushing it, you know what I mean? And if you're going to take the time to book a band, and that's something Edgar always told me, is like, if you're going to book something, promote it. Just promote. Shove it in people's faces. And that's kind of what because we're, like I said, we were just little punk kids when we started doing this. And we're like, oh, look at us. Look what we're doing. You know what I mean? It's like we're bringing bands to town. And you're so stoked on that. You want to tell everybody. And that's probably something that you shouldn't lose. You know, especially for the band's sake. You want nothing be better having a band come down and having them play for a packed house for a lot of people that have never seen them before, and they're all going, "Yay!"
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, the promotional market is a lot more saturated right now, and I do think that just how much we're bombarded with promotions on, you know, Facebook, Instagram, you know, all your socials, you know, where it's easiest to do the best work. Like it is not impossible, but it is more difficult to stand out in those things, you know. Like there have been times where, you know, we've put together events and, you know, we've really wanted to somehow like impart, like, this is going to be different than the last one. And we have like long conversations like, how are we going to do this in 12 seconds?
Right.
what the average retention is, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think a lot of that too is it's like, there's people that do it just for the love. And then there's people, you know, like I said, like the early 90s came around and how can we make some money off this? You know, and that's the difficult part of this is certainly you want to make a living. It'd be great if you could make a living off being in a band or, you know, doing triple falls production. If you're doing it, that's great. More of the power to you. You know, and then there's that line. How do you do it with, you know, without being a quote unquote sellout or whatever? But just be real, you know, I think that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah. You got to keep your roots in your brand, you know, and like that is, you know, for us, that's Southern Minnesota. So, you know, it could be someone stopping in Southern Minnesota or it could be someone who's from here, but like, you know, that's just like the thing. And I think a lot of people do kind of like turn over there. Like, you know, it is like once you like bring finances into it, you take the soul out of it a little bit, but it is just like one of the next struggles. Cause I mean, like, I don't want to live in the world where the only musicians that are good are the ones who are literally starving. Like, you know, like we want to make sure this guy doesn't sell out an album because then his tunes are going to stink.
Right. That's been my thing too. It's like, there's so many bands that I've seen and like, I'm kind of secretly thinking to myself, like, God, I hope no one else hears this band ever because they're mine. You know what I mean?
That's booking shows and then you show up. You're the only one there.
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the band called Built to Spill. Built to Spill played the What's Up Lounge. Oh, it was great. So anyways, my friends in the House of Large Sizes from Iowa, Dave calls me up. Dave's a guitar player. Him and his wife, Barb, plays bass. A shout out to, they live in Cedar Falls. They own the Mohair Pair, which is a vintage clothing store, and then they own Octopus. So if you're looking to book a show, Octopus in Cedar Falls.
I know that place. I have buddies who like say that's the only place to go if you go to Cedar Falls.
Dave Diebler, Dave and Barb. That's cool. Anyways, they call me up and they're like, you need to get to the show Friday, whatever it was. We're headlining for Arches of Loaf and Built to Spill. And it was like, what? Whoa. So then they were playing Mankato. They're playing the What's Up the next night. And so Built to Spill they weren't on the flyer. And I didn't know they were playing. So I go up there and hang out with them. And Dave's like, look at that. I look over, there's Doug March. I'm like, no way. And this kind of leads back to like why you want to go see shows, why people. So everyone's sitting downstairs at the Oli. And I'm like, Built to Spill is here. And I'm like, well, we're here for House of Large Sizes. I'm like, you don't want to miss. So they played for like 9 people. Everyone just sat downstairs. And then later on, people were like, oh, I was at that show. I'm like, no, you weren't. I'm like, don't bring that up. But yeah, so I don't know, get up and support stuff. But yeah.
What's been, so you also had a close relationship working with Edgar through the punk scene, through your radio show, and then because he did the radio show with you for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So what, like, for someone who's in the music community here but never really had a chance to work closely with him or share much space, like I don't know, like, what can you maybe like distill some of how he was in the space and things like that?
Here's how it kind of went down. It's like, I think I got my first skateboard. God, I'm really aging myself now. Probably 1974, and I cruise around the town, or cruise around where I lived, right?
Mm-hmm.
And skate all the time. Just skate. And then junior high rolls around, and I hear about these people that were downtown that would skate. Oh, I got to go meet these people. So the first person I meet is Edgar. And I'm like, wow. So it's like, who's that dude? And he had an attitude. He's just really sarcastic. And so I go down there and hang out with him all the time. But then we got to become really good friends. And he's like, oh, you play music? I guess I had a guitar or whatever. And we were into Agent Orange, and Dustin Perry and I were the two punk rock kids at East. And then there was all the West had the predominantly punk rock scene. There was a lot of people down there that were into it. They're a little more accepting. In North Mankato was a little more open to the punk rock community. East, we had all the Madison Lake people and the Eagle Lake people, kind of the farm boy people that didn't really care for us too much. It's like, whatever. But anyways, so I meet Edgar, and we started being buddies. And then he got me introduced to, like, well, I'm a skateboarder, just because I had to, like, skate. But then he showed me, like, all the art and the music and everything that comes with it, the community. And then you're like, oh, it's so much more, you know what I mean? And open your mind to a lot of things. And just his attitude, his outlook on life was great. You know what I mean? I can't say enough good things about that guy. And let's say it together. Fuck cancer.
Fuck cancer.
Fuck cancer.
Yeah, he was just someone that stood out. He was skating every day at Weed House. And he always had really bad luck, too. It's like he'd snap his boards. He gets a new board in the mail. And then we got skating. 10 minutes later, broke. And but he'd take the worst slams. And we laugh at him. And he's laying there bleeding. Get up. Let's go. And he's like, all right. But I miss that guy so much. And he was a huge part of this community because he had the van. We cruised around. Put up flyers, skated. Like I said, we used that van to borrow wood from construction sites to build stages and whatever we need, build ramps or whatever. But it's pretty amazing, and I like how the lineage or how it carries on. I guess it's lineage. But the day that he passed, I got a message from someone saying that the kids at the skate park had heard about it, and they got together to have a skate session in his name. So that's pretty awesome. You know, kids that probably just knew of him by name that didn't really know him, but I think it's beautiful that they carry that on, though.
Yeah, well, you can feel it. You can feel it everywhere. I never met the man, and I literally 80% of the musicians who we talk about, his name will come up in some way that his work either affected them or he was encouraged by them or something like that.
He would call me up and like that the Percocet 2007 that the wonky little drum percussion set that he made up. He just had these goofy ideas, and some of them worked, some of them didn't, but still he put time into it, and he'd buy all these goofy vans and all the oh my god, some of the vehicles he drove, and he's always thinking of something. And then the post holiday extravaganza, I really got to thank everybody that they took it to the next level.
What time period was this?
the post-holiday extravaganzas started. God, I am just like worthless with like dates and times. Like I'll be say it all the time. Like it's like it is probably 2012. No, it was. I'm gonna guess maybe 2003, 2004, something like that.
Okay.
Anyways, Edgar comes pick me up to do the KMS, the Radio Shack KMSU, because I got this idea. We need to have a show. We got to look out for the Catonians, right? It's been a long winter. We need to book a show, and we'll call it the post-holiday extravaganza. Yeah, that's perfect. So, anyways, it was just a show to. It's been a long winter. And he goes, "Yeah, we're gonna have sledding. We'll have cider and hot chocolate for the kids, and we'll have an art show, and then you can book the bands. We'll have kegs, and we're gonna have a good time." I'm like, oh. So we made it happen, right? And that was a great thing. And shout out to all the bands. I think Sadie Foster, and I can't remember, Houston. We had quite a few good bands come down and play, and that all went down. And then later on that year is when he got diagnosed with cancer, and then the community came through. It's Edgar. So the community came through, and they're like, well, if we're going to do it again, let's make it a benefit for him. And Edgar being Edgar is like, no, I don't want, no, don't put me on the pedestal. But we made it happen. And then him being him is like, no, let's start MWAC, the Midwest Arts Catalyst. And he gave back he's like, I'm going to be fine. We talked about his bills, and rarely we would have the heart-to-hearts about it. I'm sure it's difficult for anyone with cancer to want to face that reality, and he did. And he's like, I gotta be around. I got my kids. I take care of my kids. I got to take care of you, Chucky. And then talking about the bills, I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? He's like, well, fuck them. He goes, I don't worry about the money it's going to cost. I just need to stay alive. And so then, because I want to see people proud, I want to see people do good, and especially the art community. And that was at a time when they were defunding the art supplies and stuff like that in the local schools. So that was kind of Edgar's idea. Was like, no, we're gonna make sure the kids have an opportunity to partake in the art community, and that's pretty noble, I think.
Definitely. Wow.
Yeah. So.
Did you mentioned it in passing? What was Edgar's relationship to MWAC? Did he?
Yeah, he's the one that came up with the funds to start that. Yeah,
he started MWAC.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had heard of that organization as well, but I wouldn't have connected it to Edgar at all.
Yeah,
actually.
that was the proceeds from the post-holiday extravaganza.
Wow.
Went there, and there you go. That's another thing to touch on is like the skateboard community really came through. There's Jim Thibault, Mark Gonzalez, this Deluxe Distribution. I reached out looking for donations, and these guys came through. And Jim Thibault is this guy, just things hit him pretty hard. And he's like, Chucky, what can we do? What can we do? And next thing you know, I'm like, well, we're trying to get product raised for Edgar. And then he's into this Midwest Arts Catalyst. You got it. 2 weeks later, I got boxes and boxes of skateboards, clothes, t-shirts for anti-hero. They do anti-hero skateboards as well. But they came through. The skateboarding community really came through. People, there you go. It's like we were talking earlier about sports and people coming together. Skateboarding community, they're all like, he's our brother. They heard stories of Edgar. And that was pretty awesome. They did a big a webpage for him, and money started coming in. And yeah, he's that dude that just brought stuff like that. He didn't ask for it, but there you go. It's just coming down to like just being yourself, and I guess things will work out.
It's wild to imagine what the Mankato music scene might be like without people like that.
Right. It's something I bring up.
Difficult to imagine the impact that they had, even knowing them, I'm sure.
I bring that up on Dagger Radio quite a bit. It's like Motorhead, Lemmy from Motorhead, the Rolling Stones, Elvis, Beatles, whatever. Obviously something's going to happen. The Ramones, something's going to be happening. but is it going to be this? It's just hard to imagine, like you said, without that influence.
Mm.
And he was definitely a guy in Mankato that really brought people together. It's like, oh, Edgar's going to be there, so let's do that. And yeah, and that's not to dismiss. There's so many great people that followed. And I really got to give a shout out to like there's this family, the Haugen family in town. They were the kind of the family that were the first into punk rock, and we get fucked with, and we go to their house and hang out, and like, oh, fuck those people. And then you meet the people from West. Jeff Schnobrick's doing fanzines, playing in bands, and it all just come together. You know what I mean? And then later on in life, Jason Knudsen moves here, and that guy is he's Godhead. Jason did so many great things. All the art. If there's it's just something cool going on in Mankato, Jason Knudsen's there. I guarantee that. That guy he's incredible. So a lot of love, Jason. He's there. He's the person. There's just a few people in town. I mean, it's everywhere. I think every I hate the word scene, but every community, whatever, they have those people that just in it for life, and that's what it is. He's not making millions off. He's probably losing money for this, but it's the love of art. And again, there you go. How do we make it profitable? It's great if people can make a living off it, but people are doing it for the love, and those people that do it for the love, it really shows. I guess you get some accolades from me.
Yeah, that counts for something.
Yeah, right. That's what I was saying. Like, find something you love, stick with it, you get rewarded. Yeah, I got all you friends.
Yeah.
Now that's an awesome thing. And then shout out to everybody. Seriously, everybody, I love all the people that tune in on Sunday nights, and we have this banter online. Everyone kind of drinks along, and we party, and it's a lot of fun. So shout out to everybody. Thanks. I couldn't. Yeah, I don't. There's no money involved. It's just hanging out with everybody. That's pretty cool. It's my Friday nights on Sunday, and I love that. So
Fridays on a Sunday.
What keeps you excited about it? What are you looking forward to? Do you like searching for music?
Yeah, it's the new music that's coming out now. It's like, and it's difficult because there's so much good stuff coming out right now. And I just got sick of hearing people saying, oh, nothing's good is coming out nowadays. I'm like, where are you at? It's like, I think this is the best time for music because not only do you have this back catalog you can listen to, but all this new stuff that's coming out. And then it takes 30 seconds to the internet. This thing, thank you, Al Gore, for the internet, right?
YouTubes, man.
Right? The YouTube, Spotify, Napster. It's just music is everywhere, right? And just doesn't. I don't know what you're doing. Again, that's one of those things. I just don't know what you're doing.
They're not looking into new music. I mean, I like every year I go out of my way to make some kind of inflammatory statement about music being the best it's ever has been.
That's why I love you.
And it's just like that's obvious. And like if your research into new music is turning on the worst commercial radio station and being like, this sucks, it's like, well, maybe you're not doing a good job.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. It's like everyone's going, why is that popular? Well, mediocrity and popularity have it's been synonymous for a long time. but there you go. Again, as we were talking, like, I love those pocket bands that I have, like, no one else has really heard of. Oh, these guys are great. A few people. Carl Schneider is a great resource for music. That guy is just a total dork on music, and he always send me some links to stuff. And like I said, it's out there, and can't really claim to be a music dork if you're not going to take the 30 seconds to like preview a song. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, or even listen to it twice. I mean, this happens to me all the time. Like, where I'll hear a new album or from a band that I liked, and I'll listen to it, and I'll be like, oh, they lost it. This is terrible. I hate everything about
second
this.
Listen.
And then second listen, I'm like, yeah. It's here.
That literally like just happened like a week ago.
Yeah, there you go. What band?
What band?
Oh no, that was me with the new Grammar record.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
listened to it. I was like, "What? This isn't the same." And then I listened to it again. I was like, "Oh yeah."
That's cool.
Yeah, shout out to them. I love that new record too.
Were they from South Dakota?
No, they're from here and then moved up to the cities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I actually played with Logan's old band at the skate park at a show you booked with Weathered forever ago.
There we go. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, so shout out to all the people making music nowadays, and stick with it. I guess I don't know what else do you do. It's like it's just
Yeah.
maybe you'll break big someday. Again, people just do it for the love of it, and like again, we can bring up Jason Knudsen.
Well, I think the recommendation is gotta be like do it because you love it, but then also like try and look for those opportunities that like make you someone who could get paid to do what you like.
Or
Right.
the context, like
Yeah.
it isn't like explaining something you love to a larger audience isn't just simple, like to explain to someone like why, punk rock and skateboards is cool. They might look at that and be like, nah, that's dumb, and then
It is because it is.
you got to bring people into it and like contextualize it for them, or
Here's
or
why
don't.
you're wrong.
Yeah.
I kind of like the Fugazi blueprint. They just did what they did, and like,
Mm.
and they were proponents. They did the $5 shows simply because they probably sold enough merchandise, and they didn't need to do anymore, and they made it accessible to everybody. But that's fine and dandy and everything, but not every band has that
Mhm.
opportunity, and that's there we go. It's going to go full circle again. As I was asking, what do you guys think a fair price is for a show nowadays? Because I've got one coming up. I got to hype the show, Deep Dark Lake, and the return of the Rockford Mules, February 18th. I just sent a message out to the NATO Coles band, and hopefully NATO will come and play. But what do you guys think? Do you think $15 is too much?
Well, I mean, okay, first
I'd
of
go
all,
10 maybe.
I saw at Edgar Fest I saw Deep Dark Lake, and I'd like to get networked with them too because I really liked their set.
I can do that.
But I think that if there's a few of us who are booking shows, like we just need to say like this is going to be it. Like if you want the entertainment here, like this is like we're going to have to change it, and like that this is the cost of art, and this is the moment for that too, because everyone's talking about how wages are stagnant, housing is up, like food costs are up, everything is up. And, now I have you telling me live information from the 80s that they were getting paid $100, and I've accepted gigs for $100 when I was playing in a band. Like the wages are stagnant, and it is literally us who gets to set it. And the audience of people who are paying these prices are the people who are most upset about the problem.
I look at the price of a skateboard. Skateboards have predominantly been about $50, and that was from the 80s, and they're still about the same price. And cost has gone up for everybody. Why does an industry like that have to stay the same? They're not making their profit, like they should be. But
or is it not just that they're like the difference between a handmade deck and something that's like pressed out in a factory or something?
It's the same process. But yeah, it's just I don't know. People don't want to pay more. And that's punk rock.
The thing
music,
is that
whatever.
They do too. Like they do pay more. Like if you the gas bill to drive back and forth to the cities and parking is more than the difference in what we're making. So if we can curate our venues to be as good as the experience that you have in the cities, like this is a save,
right,
for our people.
Right.
Like time, money, everything.
I think earlier you mentioned quality, like not that the quality has necessarily gotten down, but then refocusing on like quality and whether it's developing the culture of how it's advertised and how it's promoted, how it's talked about, and then being like, these shows cost real money and we're trying to make them better. So like,
well, that was our exact conversation with doing EDM shows and reinforcing, like, how can we justify doing 10 hours of work on lights for this show? And it's like, well, we're going to need to charge $10 or $15. And like, just explain that to people. Like, do you want this experience or do you want to be dancing to the the 3 grow lights with blue bulbs in the what's up. Like,
Sure.
like you can have that experience or this one. Like, is it the same? No.
Mhm.
A lot of it lies on, at least my perception of this. A lot of it lies on the people that are supposedly in the scene, in the community. It's like, you need to get out. That is one thing. It sounds stupid. Like, oh, you revert back to the 80s and the 90s or whatever. But when there was a show or event going on, you went to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you discovered new things. You went. You had to go support it. And without the support, it's just not gonna happen. You know what I mean? People need to. I mean, I totally understand.
I don't know what that event is in Mankato right now, though. Like, I don't see, like, there isn't a thing that I think of that's happening every Friday. Like, when I first moved here, that was like I was on Fuzzy's, like Eagles Club taco runs, like that.
Yeah.
I went to that every time. Like, they caught me up with that. That was what, Sundays?
But Mondays.
Monday.
I mean, I'm talking about music
Mm-hmm.
venues. You need to get out and support stuff like that. If you're going to be part of the community, that's what it takes, because the venue needs to make money to keep going. And then obviously you want to be there for the bands. And a lot of times shows will get booked and people are sitting at home playing video games or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to get out if you want the community, and then be complaining about why isn't there shows? Well, you need to get out and be part of it. I think that's the biggest thing we can do, is everybody going out and supporting shows. And
what's hard there is, like, it's hard for me not to see an opportunity to try to offer cheaper shows too, as an incentive to get people to come out and then figure out what that looks like. But I know that doesn't solve the long-term problem. I think it works against it, which is like where we've been in this situation now, because I think that's been done a couple times to try to get more people to come out, and then it just doesn't end up helping anyone. So yeah, I don't know how to flip that model and make a ton more sense.
We're in the bad
really.
version of it now. Like, you brought up Jason Knutson a couple times. When he was on the podcast, he would talk about how they were basically taking the entirety of the door, giving it to the touring band, and then local bands were playing for free, which is like it. I mean, it's almost like hearing someone explain that, and then like thinking about the legacy of how much they've touched this community. Like that's
kind of been the model though for a long time now. And that's kind of how it's been the model. I think because the local bands, they want to see the touring band, and they're like, that's their contribution, a contribution to the scene. And people understand it. It's punk rock, art rock, whatever it is. And you know, there's not a lot of money to be made in that. And you want to do your best to keep the band that's touring on the road, because their van might break down. They need the money. And I think it's always been the attitude, like, we're just stoked to play with, you know, who's ever touring, you know, and I get it. It's like, well, and then it should go full circle. The local band that if they get on tour, and then they should kind of get hooked up the same way. But
certainly, yeah. I don't know. We can't fix it all today, but we're definitely in the headspace
it's something
to try.
Trust me, we've had this conversation for years and years and years and years. And again, the only thing I can say is get out, support the venues. A lot of venues have come and gone. The What's Up Lounge has been there since 91, I believe it's been. And it's there. And love Tom to death, one of my best friends. But there was a while there where he had opportunities to make it an office space or something like that. And he declined, and he's still keeping it running. But it's up to all of us to get there and support the shows and keep that going, support the bar. And again, like, venues have come and gone, but we need reality is this is there, and it's our playground if we want to use it. You know, and again, it's redundant, but you need to be there and support it and keep it going.
Sure. Well, I feel like we're going around on that one. You got any stories or any final thoughts you'd like to impart? You know, and end us off with a zinger. You got a
Jeez, what do I? God, I'm not much for fun for talking, but I don't know. So it's great. Okay, so here you go. We're having technical difficulties, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys did Cicada Killer.
Yeah.
All right, so years back. All right, so when I was a kid, I had my band practice studio or a little rehearsal studio in the house, and I bring bands over. So we used to record shows. We had a cassette deck, and we hang microphones from the ceilings, and we're just figuring this stuff out, right? And I'd be the one. I did the recordings. I got some cassette tapes from some really old shows, and it's pretty. And then a lot of it, you just it's like I should have kept on to this stuff, but it's just like, oh, it's just happening all the time, and I really feel crappy for not holding on to some of this stuff. But I was recording bands, and then the Libido Boys, who was Chad and Jeff from Cicada Killer, they called me up and they're like, yeah, well, we got a mixing board. You got to come and do our recording for us. All right. Because I used to record them on a boombox at Devin Waterman's parents' house. So anyways, I go up there. It's Dustin Perry's house. And get everything plugged up, sounding good. And it's just this constant hiss. And we recorded for like 8 hours, and I just can't figure it out. I'm like, this constant hiss. And everyone's like, oh, let me try. About 8 hours later, we figured out that the treble was up too high. So that's just, I don't know. That's what kind of leads me back to starting out this show. My shows, same way every time. It's like just something screwed up. But you know what? There we go. It's a testimony to keep sticking with it.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for letting me be on the show.
Well, thanks. We've had every difficulty.
I know.
We finally got you
horrible.
here and in good health, and that everything worked out well. And it was a pleasure. Do you have any final thoughts?
I wanted to thank you for, I think what it is maybe carrying on some of Edgar's legacy and doing stuff like Edgar Fest, because I went to that and I had, like, I knew of him, and but there, I'm not sure if I learned a ton about him, but like I saw the impact that he had on that group. And so like, you as someone who's involved in continuing that, I appreciate it. And I think that's really important.
It was just, it was a tough loss. It's like you're there with him for so long, going back and forth, just chemotherapy for 10 years. And, he would just taught me a lot about life and how to handle situations. We'd be in the chemo ward, and he'd have a really poor sense of humor. Edgar, wherever you're at, it's true. And he'd make some pretty bad jokes, and we're just trying to stay positive. But it was difficult, but he handled it so well, and just inspirational to everybody. It's like, if you're in the fight with cancer right now, please know that you can beat it. There's a lot of people that beat it, and just never give up on that thing. And he, the first time we went to chemotherapy, it's like because like I said, we have a poor sense of humor with each other. So I run over, I grab a wheelchair, I'm like, let's go. And he's like, looks at me, I'm like, oh shit, I fucked up. He goes, no, not today. He goes, because someday I might need this. I'm like, oh, that made sense. So we're up there one day, and we pull into the parking lot, and he's like, today's the day. I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, I might need that wheelchair. I'm like, oh, fuck. That's when reality hits you. Because normally he'll walk out to the car. Excuse me. He'll put him in the passenger seat. He'll have half a cigarette, and he'll fall asleep. And that's good. I loved those 2 hours back from Rochester. You could sleep. But this day is like, I might need that. So we're sitting in there. We're waiting in this waiting room. Just getting a stent put in his chest. And there's this little girl in there. And she's getting the same thing done. And she is just scared shitless, right? Obviously. And Edgar and I are there, like, trying to talk her through it, And the mom's like, oh, thank you guys. And Edgar's like, well, I'm doing well. If this guy can do it, you can do it too, And anyways, I see people getting wheeled out. in beds or whatever. Like, it's not looking good. And I'm sitting there on my computer. Somebody taps me on the shoulder. You ready to go? He walks out. I'm like, oh, you asshole. Like, but he didn't need the wheelchair after all. But it was just one of those things. He just always an inspiration. Anything can happen, and stay positive. So.
Heck yeah. Well, Chuck, since I first met you in the community, and Edgar, you guys have been very supportive. Even back when I worked with Moody, I think that's how I met you. Right away, you were just like super supportive, trying to get my band Weathered to play shows. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's what you do. I think that's just what you should do. It's like support everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all you got. You know, it's like you support things and get out. I think the most important thing is get out.
Yes.
And you're needed in our community and be seen, meet friends. There's so many great. Here we go. We get some love to everybody out there because we've got a great community of people. It's not the biggest scene. But everyone is so. Have you met an asshole in this town?
No
I don't think we need to dive into that.
Yeah, I was gonna say just Jake.
Yeah, for the most part,
I'll take it.
For the most part, we've got a great community, and
no, I totally agree.
and you get
That's
out
really
there,
great.
and there you go. So again, like Edgar Fest, like everyone comes together. That guy was just nice to everybody. So there you go, you assholes. Be nice to everybody and don't be a jackass. And just hang out, go support things, support Triple Falls. Sunday nights, Dagger Radio, 7 to 1 in the morning. And then the Minnesota Music Network, Friday, 6 to 7 on KMSU. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate being on here. You guys rule. There you go. Super stoked on what you guys are doing. This is amazing. You know what I mean? So stick with it, and good things are going to come.
Thank you.
Even better than having me on the show.
Whoa. All right. I won't hold my breath.
There you go. Right.
Hey, no, thank you for joining us, and it was a pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah, great guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks.